it's a little bit different out here when you get Caitlin Clark treatment. It ain't so easy peasy getting to play one-on-one, getting to just do your thing how you want to do it, when you want to do it.
The illusion has shattered. The carefully crafted narrative, spoon-fed to the public for months, has finally imploded in spectacular fashion. The WNBA's desperate search for the next Caitlin Clark just hit a brick wall, and the world got to see the fallout live on national television. The player they anointed as the heir to the throne, the one they promised was more polished, more poised, and more prepared, just got a brutal lesson in what it truly means to be a target. This wasn't just a bad game, it was an exposure. A reminder that hype built on sand gets washed away by the first real wave of pressure.
This was the first time we saw Paige really get guarded. This is where we saw what is going to happen in year 2. This is the scout report that needs to be out there on Paige Bueckers once the Dallas Wings get good, because Dallas Wings are going to get good at some stage in her career. This was the game where I'm like, okay, we can shut up that.
For months, the media machine was in overdrive, building a pedestal for Paige Bueckers. She was presented as the chosen one, the inevitable successor who would not just follow in Caitlin Clark's footsteps but surpass them. Headlines screamed about her historic efficiency, painting her as the flawless antidote to Clark's supposedly chaotic style. They celebrated her as the fastest player to reach 200 points and 50 assists, a record she snatched from Clark by a single game. To the analysts at ESPN, this wasn't just a stat, it was undeniable proof that Bueckers was the more refined, pro-ready superstar the league had been waiting for. The narrative was simple and seductive. Clark was the lightning, but Bueckers was the quiet, deadly storm.
The elevation of one Paige Bueckers. Oh, she's better than Caitlin Clark. I mean, stab me in the eye with a spoon, for Christ's sakes. Wow. So that's a thing right now. Last night, Paige Bueckers dropped 44 points. And we're going to look at a video that just dissects and exposes a lot of that shit. Let me tell you, it exposes a lot of stuff involving Paige Bueckers getting special treatment on the court.
This narrative didn't just appear out of thin air. It was seeded by some of the most respected voices in the game, most notably Bueckers' own college coach, Gino Auriemma. For years, his comments were often interpreted as subtle criticisms of Caitlin Clark's game. He would praise fundamentals, team play, and high-percentage shots in a way that seemed to cast shade on Clark's high-volume Logo 3 theatrics. He created a quiet but powerful whisper campaign within the basketball world that while Clark was the flashy showman, Bueckers was the true basketball purist, the one whose game would translate more seamlessly to the pros. It was the perfect setup, positioning Paige as the silent killer destined to overtake the loud revolutionary.
And Diana said it best. This kid's in for a rude awakening. And they all jumped over her, but they didn't read the whole thing that she said. But nobody's printing. You know, Diana Taurasi was right. This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league. And she's a rookie. And if you're a WNBA player, if you're any kind of player, you're going to say, I'm going to make a statement.
But then came the game against the Seattle Storm, and the coronation turned into a complete and utter demolition. Fresh off a 44-point game that had the hype train screaming down the tracks, Paige walked into Seattle expecting another victory lap. Instead, the Storm gave her a taste of real, suffocating WNBA defense. The final stat line was devastating, a meager 11 points on a horrific 2-for-11 shooting from the field. Even more telling, 0 assists and only 2 rebounds. She looked lost, hesitant, and completely outmatched. The poise the media had sold as her greatest asset vanished. The second she faced genuine adversity, it was a coronation that became a collapse.
Diva of Dump Divas Kat Engelbert is breathing a sigh of relief. Her pretend friends in the mainstream media, they are trying to crown a new star. If the media has it their way, this could potentially be the new face of pretend basketball. And it's not just the woke media. There are even some in conservative media who are voluntarily biting into the shit sandwich. Headline at Outkick: "No Caitlin, no problem. Paige Bueckers can save the WNBA season."
What Paige experienced that night wasn't just tough defense. It was the Caitlin Clark treatment. While Paige had been enjoying a relatively gentle welcome to the league, Caitlin has been living through a war of attrition. The numbers are shocking in the 2024 season. A staggering 17% of all flagrant fouls in the entire WNBA were committed against Clark alone. The Chicago Sky, in particular, seemed to make it their personal mission to physically intimidate her, accounting for 80% of those flagrant fouls. This wasn't basketball. It was a targeted campaign of physical harassment, and Clark has faced it in nearly every game since she stepped on a professional court.
She went off in a game against the Los Angeles Sparks, scoring 44 points, but the craziest part about that was her shooting percentage. She shot over 80% from the field, and I tweeted about that, and I was like, that's actually insane. Give props where they are due. Shooting over 80%, scoring 44 points is actually insane. But with this game, like Paige Bueckers she put on a masterclass in scoring, and I think with that, these are some big numbers.
This is where the difference between hype and greatness becomes painfully clear. Paige Bueckers folded. After one single night of the Caitlin Clark treatment, her entire game evaporated, her shot stopped falling, and she became a non-factor on the court. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark has not only survived this treatment for an entire season, but has thrived in it. She continues to put up record-breaking numbers while being bodied, cheap-shotted, and targeted by defenses designed not just to stop her, but to break her spirit. One player crumbled under the pressure, the other forged her legacy in it. The contrast couldn't be more stark.
For the game, you said it's going to be important to be physical with like Paige Bueckers. Can you talk about the defensive game plan for Dallas and like how your team was able to hold them to their fewest points of the season?
Yeah, it started, with our attention to detail with Paige. I thought, Slim was very physical, stayed in her space, and the actions that we guarded her in, we were very aggressive, showed multiple bodies, and kind of, made her hesitant to use the ball screen a little bit. I thought we rotated well.
The media's favorite talking point, Paige's superior efficiency, was also exposed as a complete and utter myth. Her smooth 47.4% shooting clip was endlessly compared to Clark's 41.7%, presented as definitive proof of her superiority. But that number came without context. Paige was getting wide-open looks and shooting against soft defensive rotations where help defenders were a step late. Clark, on the other hand, was taking the most difficult shots imaginable, often with a defender draped all over her from 28 feet out, while absorbing constant physical punishment that went uncalled. The moment Paige was guarded like a true superstar, her elite efficiency disintegrated. A 2-for-11 shooting night isn't just inefficient, it's a mirage dissolving under the first ray of sunlight.
Paige Bueckers got Caitlin Clark treatment for the first time in her career, and it looked bad. It looked real bad. Everybody was running around. Yeah, she was cooking. 44 points versus the Sparks. They didn't play a lick of defense, letting this girl play one-on-one basketball in every area of the floor, letting her post up in the mid-range area one-on-one. Now, I'm giving credit. She's a bucket in one-on-one, especially from that mid-range, from the free throw line down area. But this is the first time we watch teams actively be persistent about taking away her spots and what she wants to do.
The Seattle Storm didn't just beat Paige. They handed the rest of the WNBA a blueprint for how to neutralize her. Coach Noelle Quinn laid it out perfectly after the game. They didn't leave it to one defender. They sent layers. They used their most physical guards like Brittany Sykes to apply relentless on-ball pressure, denying her comfortable spots. Then, Skylar Diggins-Smith and Gabby Williams provided aggressive help-side rotations to cut off her driving lanes, forcing her into contested floaters or bad passes. It was the exact kind of layered physical defense Clark sees every single time she steps on the court, and it proved that once you take away Paige's comfortable, uncontested mid-range jumpers, her game has no answer. The blueprint is out, and every team will be using it.
She got blitzed. She got doubled. And do you want to know what she did as soon as she got blitzed and doubles? She passed. Paige Bueckers, look, she played decent amount early in the game. The game was kind of over and she got subbed out. Paige Bueckers shot 7 times.
This exposes the reality of Bueckers' rookie season. Her impressive stats were hollow, a classic case of fool's gold. Her points came from exploiting defensive lapses and feasting on second-rate opponents. When she faced a disciplined, elite defensive team that made her their priority, the stat padding stopped instantly. Compare her shot chart from early games to the one against Seattle. The open looks in the paint were gone. The clean looks from mid-range vanished. She was forced into tough, off-balance shots late in the shot clock. This is the world Caitlin Clark lives in every night. Clark's points are earned through fire against schemes designed to stop her at all costs. Paige's points, as we now see, were largely gifted.
Paige Bueckers, let me ask you this. How did it feel to be blitzed and played 94 feet before you even get a chance to bring the ball up court like your name was Caitlin Clark, aka my precious CC? You didn't like that, huh? You hear me? You out there was looking like you was about to cry. Yeah, so what do your fans have to say now? Excuse me, where are you Paige Bueckers fans at? That's y'all MVP and face of the league, right? She's boring. She's not good enough. She gets special treatment. But understand, she kept getting blitz after blitz after blitz.
Of course, the excuses from her defenders came flooding in almost immediately. They claimed she was still shaking off rust from her ACL tear, an injury that happened years ago and which she seemed perfectly fine from when she dropped 44 points just days earlier. But Caitlin Clark was never afforded such a luxury. She entered the league as public enemy number 1, with a target on her back from her very first game. There was no grace period, no soft entry, no time to get her rhythm. She was thrown directly into the fire and was expected to perform at a historic level from day one, all while being physically targeted. Paige was handed a velvet runway, and the second a single pebble appeared on it, she tripped and fell.
Look up how the WNBA played against Caitlin Clark in terms of the defensive strategy, in terms of the other basketball teams around the WNBA, what they did against Caitlin Clark versus how they've handled Paige this year. Everybody wants to act like Paige is so much better than Caitlin. They're certainly not playing defense on Paige the way they played on Caitlin. They're certainly not attacking her with unnecessary fouls the way they attacked Caitlin with unnecessary fouls last year. So in the 2024 season, there were 35 flagrant fouls called. Caitlin Clark received 17% of the entire season's flagrant fouls, 17%. I mean, we've seen all the injuries, we've seen all the fights, the MMA fights that the WNBA players have gotten into this year. There haven't been 35 flagrant fouls called.
There's a deeper unspoken element at play here as well, the league's quiet preference. Caitlin Clark is a disruptor. She's an outsider from Iowa who shattered the established order. Paige Bueckers, on the other hand, is a product of the ultimate basketball establishment, UConn. She represents the traditional path to greatness, the kind the old guard of the WNBA is comfortable with. There's a prevailing theory that many within the league and its media partners were quietly hoping Bueckers would ascend, restoring a sense of order and proving that the old ways were still superior. They wanted a star they felt they could control, not a supernova they could only watch in awe.
In a 17 on the floor, she had 0 assists and 11 points. 0 assists. 0 assists. That's mental. That's mental for a player that they were trying to say was better than Caitlin Clark. And I'm not even going to say, oh yeah, the points are everything. Points aren't everything at the end of the day. Assists aren't everything. Like, all of these individual stats aren't everything. It was just the fact that she literally... How many blitzes did the how many open shots did the Indiana Fever get off a Caitlin Clark blitz?
Ultimately, the most glaring difference between the two lies in their true franchise impact. Paige Bueckers, for all her supposed polish, couldn't stop the Dallas Wings from being a non-factor in the playoff race. They remained a team adrift, struggling for any kind of national relevance or identity. Caitlin Clark, however, single-handedly transformed the Indiana Fever from a forgotten franchise into the biggest draw in all of women's sports. She shattered attendance records, both home and away. She drove WNBA television ratings to their highest levels in decades. She is the reason the league is signing new charter flight deals and getting more national broadcasts. One is a good player on a struggling team, the other is a cultural phenomenon carrying an entire league on her back.
When you guard a player like Paige, it's not just relying on, your guards, whoever has the main matchup, but it becomes a team picture and understanding, rotations on the ball, off the ball, And I think the other thing that we did, early on, we rebounded decently out of it. We didn't give up too many. I think it was 12-second chance points at the half, but not a lot of deflating possessions after having a lot of deflections and things like that.
This really is a tale of two rookies heading in two very different directions. While the media focused on a narrow slice of their box scores, the real story was in their leadership and their response to pressure. When the Fever struggled early, Clark took the blame, faced the media, and kept pushing her team to be better. She embraced the role of leader. In Dallas, Bueckers seemed to float through the season, a talented piece on a directionless team. When the lights got brightest and the pressure was at its peak in Seattle, she shrank. Clark, meanwhile, seems to feed on that pressure, hitting her biggest shots in the most hostile environments. That's not something you can teach. It's the DNA of a legend.
This year, not enough. But if her name was Caitlin Clark, I bet she would have had at least 9 to 10 assists. You hear me? Because she's more than just a scorer. You hear me? Unlike Paige Bueckers, she's only a scorer. She's not dynamic. She's boring. You hear me? Clearly she fits the narrative, but she can't handle being double team or triple team.
This entire situation reveals a troubling strategy from the league and its media partners. They seem desperate to manufacture a rivalry to create a Magic versus Bird for a new generation. They tried to prop up Paige Bueckers as Clark's equal, force-feeding a narrative that the on-court reality simply doesn't support. But rivalries can't be created in a boardroom. They have to be earned through epic battles, conflicting styles, and genuine, undeniable greatness from both sides. Fans see through the manufactured hype, and the clumsy attempt to anoint Bueckers has only made Clark's authentic, world-changing impact shine even brighter.
Did you just say Paige Bueckers will save the WNBA season? This season? The same Paige Bueckers that's dating Elmer Fudd? The same Paige that plays in front of empty civic centers for the Dallas Wankers? You expect me to believe she is going to save the WNBA season? She can't even sell out home games. Matter of fact, she doesn't come anywhere close to selling out games. The Wankers rank near the bottom of the league in attendance.
And what happened in the aftermath of the Seattle game? The media that had been screaming Bueckers' praises suddenly went quiet. The endless Paige is more efficient articles disappeared. The analysts on ESPN who were ready to crown her shifted their focus, talking about the Storm's great defense rather than Bueckers' shocking failure. This sudden silence was just as telling as their previous hype. When their chosen one was exposed, they didn't analyze the failure. They simply tried to change the subject. It was the final admission that their narrative was built on nothing but flimsy talking points, and it had just been blown away.
You know what Paige Bueckers did every time the blitz came her way? Give up the ball and never look to get it back again. She just gave up. That is what we are talking about. You guys are running around and acting like everybody's getting guarded like Caitlin Clark, and it's not the truth. It's not facts at all. It's not facts at all. Paige Bueckers finally got a taste of a glimpse of what that tastes like.
In the end, you cannot manufacture a legend. A player like Caitlin Clark is a once-in-a-generation talent, a force of nature that transcends the game. Much like Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, or LeBron James. She changes the rules, she changes the culture, and she does it while facing a level of pressure and hostility that would crush lesser players. The game against the Seattle Storm wasn't just a loss for Paige Bueckers. It was the night the media's hoax was exposed, the night the curtain was ripped away, revealing to the entire world that there is no next Caitlin Clark. There is only Caitlin Clark, and then there is everyone else. The numbers, the film, and the narrative all tell the same story. Paige Bueckers isn't the heir to Caitlin Clark's throne. She's a product of a media hype machine that finally got unplugged when the Seattle Storm exposed the truth. They didn't just hand her a bad game. They ripped the curtain back on an illusion. The WNBA and ESPN have been desperate to sell this hoax since Clark's arrival. But now the fans know the truth. The experiment is over. What do you think? Did this one game permanently end the debate?